What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Last Witness. My name is Devontae, and today we'll be going over the case of Sara Gilson. Sara Gilson was known online as a social media influencer and content creator, but away from social media, she was also known as a mother. Her children were an important part of her life. Her relationship with Jeremiah Duffey, however, had become increasingly troubled. The couple had separated, and court records show that Sara had previously sought protective orders against Duffey. Those earlier attempts did not ultimately result in a permanent protective order. In June of 2026, accusations had begun to arise about Duffey and a teenage girl. According to court documents reported by multiple news outlets, Duffey had been accused of inappropriate sexual behavior involving a 15-year-old girl who was connected to a youth basketball team he coached. The accusations included claims that he had kissed and touched the girl inappropriately. There are also accusations involving communications between Duffey and the teenager. These claims were serious, and it's important to emphasize that they are accusations. Duffey was never arrested or formally charged in connection with them. The situation, however, was enough to trigger legal action. On June 10th, Sara reportedly filed an emergency protective order against Duffey. According to reports, she had been informed by police about the accusations involving the teenager. The protective order required Duffey to stay away from Sara in her home. Court documents also reportedly described concerns about Duffey possessing a firearm and making threats, including suicide. At some time, another woman sought a protective order involving her teenage daughter over allegations concerning Duffey. The situation was becoming increasingly serious, and Sara appeared to believe that something had to be done. Sara made a decision that would bring enormous attention to the situation. She went public. The video quickly gained online attention. She spoke about the situation in a way that made it clear she was deeply disturbed by what she believed had happened. The video spread across social media. Millions of people would eventually see or hear about it. But while the public was discovering Sara's story, the people closest to the situation were dealing with something much more frightening. According to reports, Duffey had not been arrested or formally charged in connection with the allegations involving the teenage girl. The investigation was reportedly transferred to a federal authority because of jurisdictional issues involving Indian court and Duffey's tribal affiliations. Then came July 23rd. It was a late night when something went terribly wrong inside Sara's home. A 911 call was placed. According to the reports, the caller was one of Sara's children.
911, what is your emergency?
The children told emergency dispatchers that his stepfather had shot his mother. The situation was chaotic. Police rushed to her home. When officers arrived, they found Sara and Jeremiah Duffey. Both had suffered gunshot wounds. Investigators quickly determined that this appeared to be a murder-suicide. The preliminary belief was that Jeremiah Duffey had shot Sara before turning the gun on himself. Sara was 43 years old. Duffey was 48 years old. And the family was left devastated. One of the most disturbing aspects of this case is the fact that Sara had already taken legal action. She had attempted to protect herself and had filed an emergency protective order. And according to reports, the order was still active when she was killed. The case therefore raises difficult questions about effectiveness of protective orders in situations involving domestic violence. A protective order is a legal document, but ultimately it depends on enforcement. And in Sara's case, the order was not enough to prevent Duffey from returning to the home. That is one of the most tragic elements of the story. Sara had reportedly recognized that she was in danger. She had taken the steps to protect herself. She had spoken publicly about what she believed was happening, and yet on July 23rd, she was murdered. Her story became part of a much larger conversation about domestic violence, protective orders, and the warning signs that can precede intimate partner homicide. But behind the headlines was a family dealing with an unimaginable loss. Sara's children were left without their mother, and at least one of them was reportedly present during the shooting. Because Jeremiah Duffey died at the scene, there will be no court actions where he can be questioned about his actions. No jury will ever hear his side of the story, and many questions surrounding his motivation may never be fully answered. Sara Gilson was not simply a headline. She was a mother, she was a daughter, she was a friend. Yeah, these kind of stories are kind of hard to cover because she knew that she was in danger. And it sucks that although we think that the protective orders can protect us, they really can't. They're just a piece of paper. They're not like some kind of magical barrier or something that can protect you from someone who wants to do wrong to you. I know that even though you're trying to get somebody out of your life, it's hard for some people to let go. So what are your thoughts on this case? Thank you for watching The Last Victim. I'll see you next time.